Okay girls, so in this video we're going to look at passing backwards and the opportunities that we've had to pass backwards when we haven't. And I think this is one of our biggest weaknesses at the moment, is when we're pushing up the field, if we get in trouble, we don't look for a back pass to rebuild and keep possession of the ball. Instead we try and throw these 50-50 balls, and 9 times out of 10 they're not working in our favour. We have had opportunities to pass backwards and we haven't used it, and I think the key thing is, if we can't do anything on attack, it's about keeping possession of the ball and not just throwing the ball away to the other team. Alright, because if we don't have the ball, we can't score goals. So I guess what we're going to do, this is a pretty short video, we're just going to look at a couple of instances where we could have passed backwards and we haven't. And you'll see that if we peel or turn around, or 180 turn with the ball, we can actually see we've got to pass backwards quite easily. And I guess the biggest examples here of when the wing has the ball. So if the wing has the ball, the inner should be there for the square pass or in line with them, and then the person who should be supporting backwards is your half, and they're doing pretty well at that, is supporting you from behind. So you should always expect that if I'm a left wing, if I'm running up the field, I should always be expecting my left half to be supporting me from behind. So if I turn and need a pass, then that left half should be free and ready to take the ball. So let's have a look at the first one, and then we'll go back and analyse it. Okay, so if I just rewind a little bit there, we can see, and there's not a whole lot to analyse, I just want you to be pointing out the support that we have available to us. Now what happens is Jess has got the ball, and what Jess does is, as we run forward, she starts to get cut down by a player there, stopping there. Jess could have easily turned and peeled that way, okay? And look at this pass she's got here to Georgia. She could have passed back to Georgia, and then Georgia could have hit into the circle or look for a pass across here. Okay, so there was that option there. So all she's had to do is, instead of throwing this 50-50 ball as she was getting closed down, she could have turned on her player, alright, and then made a pass backwards to a supporting player there. Alright, and in this case it was that inner. Alright, that's all I want you to identify, is that if we do turn, alright, there are options. And if we do turn and there's no option there, so if Jess did turn there, and then Georgia was, let's say, over here, we've got the option to turn again, do a 360 or a D-turn and move right around our player and then come back in, alright? So if we do turn and there's no one there, there's always the option to do a 360 turn or a D-turn and turn around your player, alright? So there's always other options available. Having said that though, if we had turned 180 and Georgia was over here, look at the space you could have run. You could have started to run backwards a little bit, and you've got space to run and trying to find that free player, or somebody will move into space for the pass to become available. Alright, so if she wasn't there, there were heaps of different options by using that space which isn't marked, alright? Just wanted to get you the idea that there was a player there. So let's move on to the next one. Okay, so let's watch this one and see what happens. Okay, so just rewinding a little bit. I think you can probably all see what's happened here. So as we say, if we continue going forward, Alice has got the ball out on the wing there. She's getting marked by 3 players, alright? And if we continue a little bit further, she stops, she turns, alright? So she does the 180 turn, or peels away like she would. So instead of running forward where she was going to get tackled, she peeled away, which was good. And she would have seen that she had a back pass here, and this player here, which might have been Georgia, probably shouldn't have been that player there, to be honest. Now if we look, I think it's our left half is all the way back here, which is a big no, and that's something we're going to really focus on in the coming weeks, is making sure that our halves are pushing up and supporting our players on attack. Alright, so, but in this case, Georgia was the player who was supporting, and you probably should have come a little bit further across, and it's this idea that we're trying to make square and straight passes. Regardless if the ball's going forward or backwards, that pass still has to be straight. At the moment, the pass is a little bit on a diagonal, alright, which gives that player there an opportunity to intercept. So making sure if you are supporting from behind, you are directly behind them. So if they turn and peel and do that 180 degree turn, then you can make the pass straight back to them. Alright, but it's this idea that there was a player here we could have passed straight back, but instead we try and do this 50-50 pass and hope someone's around. And as we can see, Alice isn't looking where she's passing, and the end result was a pass straight back to the St. Cuthbert player. Alright, and we've lost possession of the ball. An easy turnaround, pass backwards, and then we could have rebuilt. If we had passed back to Georgia here, look at the space we've got in the middle of the field. We could have passed across to the middle and then moved our way up. What you'll find, girls, is when we're attacking, when we've got the ball down the wing, if we pass back, there's not going to be a whole lot of players in that centre position, because all the halves are going to be dropping back to defence. So their main priority isn't, when we've got the ball forward, the halves on the other team's main priority isn't to defend us or to mark us in the middle of the field. Their job is to drop back, which is what they're doing here, all right? So we do create a bit of space in the middle. So we could have passed back there, and then we could have come across and then down this channel here, all right? But this idea that if we do spread the ball out wide, we are creating this channel in the middle that we could pass back to from a back pass or back and around. But we don't have to do a back and around always at the back line. We can do it in the middle of the field. All right, so just that idea that there was a simple back pass available there, just making sure that you are straight behind them for that back pass, that we didn't use, and instead we just gave the ball away. So let's move on to the next one. Okay, so this is just a long corner one, or just a free hit just on that long corner sort of area, so that we are going to use this as an example. But this will come up in the long corner video, so I'm not going to bet on too much about it. What I just want you to realise is that we'll watch it first, and then we'll go back and analyse it. Okay, so as you would have known if you'd watched a long corner video, you know the rules of hockey. We didn't take that ball 5 metres, so we lost it. Now, what Georgia realised, Georgia's taking the ball from here. What Georgia realised is she didn't have any option on. She possibly had Alice over here, but at the time she wasn't thinking about her because she was inside the circle. We can't pass straight inside the circle. So instead she tries to take it herself. However, if she was stuck for a player, what she could have realised is there were back passes available. There's this player here, and there was also this player here that were unmarked. So really, girls, if we are struggling for a player to fight, if we're struggling to find a player inside these 23-yard hits, always look backwards, because at the end of the day we want to keep possession of the ball. And if that means going back and then moving forward again, then that's what we have to do to keep possession of the ball. And you'll find that when you watch international hockey, you know, there won't be a lot of opportunity inside the 23-yard line. So what they will do is they'll pass backwards. So we could have passed backwards to here and then spread it across. Yeah, and by spreading the ball across the field, we're starting to open the field up a little bit. When we keep the ball in this little area here, look at all these players that are cramped up, because that's where the ball is. That's where they're trying to mark. Whereas if we spread the ball out here and then across here, etc., maybe not in that exact order, but we're starting to spread the field out a little bit, and the defenders start to spread out, and that's when the gaps start to form in the field. All right, so if that wasn't available, then there was that back pass, and we just want to keep possession of the ball. So don't do these 50-50 balls. We want to keep possession of the ball. So if there isn't an option open, especially in these 23-yard hits, these long corners, then look to pass backwards and just keep possession of the ball, and then we can rebuild as a midfield and attack to score the goal. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so let's have a look at this one here. Now, this is a good example of when we did use a back pass, and then there were a couple of weak passes, and there was another opportunity for us to use a back pass that I want you to look at. So watch it first and we'll analyse it. The ball's here, all right, and this player here. So let's watch it, and then we'll go back and have a look at it. Okay, so let's just rewind a little bit. Okay, let's go forward a little bit. As we can see, we start to run into trouble here. We make a back pass, yeah? And as we've talked about before, and I think it's our centre half that actually got dragged into this area here, which isn't a good thing. But look at the space we've got in the middle of the field here that we could have used. So once that ball had been passed back to this player, she could have run out and used the space. Or one of our players, Anna, I think you're over here, you could have moved into that space and used that space instead of standing in your position. And as we talk about all the time, you don't necessarily have to stay in your channel if there's space available. We've got to be changing channels, changing tracks, and making that opportunity or the space happen. All right. So there was that first back pass, and it worked well. That means we're dragging the St. Cuss player here to the ball. Yep. Which frees this player up here who starts to move, as you'll see in a minute. So the ball's been passed. St. Cuss player drags in. Now what could have happened was a quick pass back to that player who first initially passed the ball. So it's just this 1-2. So pass backwards, pass back to the player who received the ball. But that player, that marker who was on the player first, will then go backward to try and take that ball, and then you free yourself up. So I guess that's actually quite confusing how I just said that. But the good thing about a back pass is this player here had the ball. Yep. The St. Cuss player was marking or trying to tackle the ball. Then what happened was the ball got passed backwards, and then the St. Cuss player has moved backwards with the ball to try and tackle them, which frees up the player who initially passed the ball. Okay, so then quite easily a back pass could have happened a forward pass could have happened straight back to that player, and we've just lost our player, and we've drawn them into a pass, and then we've lost them. Okay? So that's a fantastic opportunity of why we can use a back pass. Instead, the player with the ball passes to the player behind the St. Cuss player. Now, whether that was intentionally or whether it was because we weren't looking up is another story. All right, but the pass should have been given back to the player who was free, who gave the pass. So then, as we see, we actually get the ball back. All right. Now, I think this might be Georgia who takes this ball here. If we turn here, she's peeled away from her player, and she's turned backwards. All right. Then she would have seen she's got a straight pass right here. She could have passed back to her, and then we have this gap or this opportunity to run through the field there. But instead, we decide to peel away again and move out to that dead space which we talk about. And as soon as we start getting into that area there, you can see that we've got 1, 2, 3 St. Cuss players all going into that corner. The likelihood of us getting the ball back into the field is quite hard, yeah? We could have peeled away like we did and then made a pass backwards, and then the opportunity could have come through here, which should have been a play that we should have used. And this idea that we're trying to come in from this 45-degree angle here, and over here as well on the other side of the field, instead of going right down to the baseline. And when we go down to that baseline, it's the dead zone, remember? And it's okay if we're in space and we can run freely down here and then we can come back in along that baseline. But when we're stationary and we're trying to muck around with that ball in that area, it makes it very, very hard for us to get the ball inside the circle. What happens here is Georgia then tries to get the ball in, and what happens is we just give it straight back to a St. Cuss player. All right. So the easy option there would have been when Georgia had peeled or turned around, she could have made an easy back pass to the player who was behind her. Yeah, and then they could have made the run back infield on that 45 and given us a better opportunity to score the goal. But we didn't, and it's this idea that we weren't looking up and we weren't looking for the pass that was available for us. All right, so basically that's all I wanted you to get out of this video, is that if we're in trouble, all right, so we're running down the line, if we're in trouble, we should always have a half backing us up from behind, not on an angle, but straight behind us, so right behind us for that back pass, which is straight. Yeah, so if we do get in trouble, peel or turn around 180 degrees, yeah, so it's like a half D-turn, I guess you could say, and look and pass back to that player who should pretty much be unmarked, because the halves mark halves, and if we're attacking, the halves are going to be coming back into the circle to try and mark off players. They're not going to be marking players who are behind the ball. All right? So that half should almost be pretty much free for us to pass to. And we don't, as attackers, we don't want to be losing possession of the ball. There's no point throwing the ball away with these 50-50 balls if we've got players unmarked and options available for us to pass to. All right? So last time I'll drill it into you. When we're in trouble, turn. Yep, like you saw a couple of examples in these clips here. Turn, pass backwards, and then we can rebuild. All right? So that is this idea about keeping possession of the ball, rebuilding, and finding the opportunities when they become available. Don't just try and make something out of nothing when there are options available. Bedded on about that enough. Thanks for watching this video, girls. Hopefully you understand this a little bit more, and I'll move on to the next video. Cheers.